Good morning, Ultimate Hustlers. It is that time for the Cortez Hustle Show, and we're talking software money, man. All the money is being dumped and pumped into tech. You want to know how you can get your hands on some of it? Well, I got a special guest who's going to share with you his thoughts on exactly how to do it, because that's what he does. He buys and flips and fixes and invests in software as service companies. So I'm super excited to talk to this brother. So I'll introduce him to you guys in a minute. But in the meantime, comment in the chat where you're from, drop the name of your business and or your brand, and smash that share button, ladies and gentlemen. It's about to go down. Some of you guys know the millions and billions of dollars that are going into the tech industry. But what you may not know is that it's not difficult for you to get your hands in some of that money. And that's what we're going to talk about today with our special guest, Akeel Jabber. So y'all make sure y'all let me know where you're tuning in from. Drop the name of your business and on your brand if you like a free business shout out, and let's kick it. Yo, what's up, Ultimate Hustlers, and welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show, the business podcast for the entrepreneur of the 21st century. And I'm your host, Cortez Hustle. Our goal is to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how the world's greatest hustlers build amazing brands, scale their businesses to incredible heights, sell more, make more, and create mass movements that impact the world. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned vet or you're sitting on the sidelines with aspirations to one day unleash your inner hustle. This show will provide the insights into how pure grit, determination, and hard work has morphed into some of the most iconic brands and personalities, and how they are moving the culture forward. You'll get a mix of solo shows featuring yours truly, as well as interviews and content from other hustlers that I either know personally, or I've learned from, or whose grind I've come to know and respect. And you'll also get exclusive recordings from our membership called Monetize My Life Academy, which you can check out at monetizemylifeacademy.com. That's a program where we go live every month with some of the best hustlers on the planet, sharing best practices on how we all can explode our brands with advanced branding and marketing tactics, business development strategies, and financial game planning necessary to build the empires we all desire. Again, that's at monetizemylifeacademy.com. If you like today's episode, chances are the hustlers you're connected to will like it as well. Share it with those in your network. And when you do, use hashtag Cortez Hustle so I can see you and hopefully give you a shout out and share you in my stories. So check out today's episode and make sure you subscribe to the feed on your favorite podcasting networks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show this morning. I am, of course, your host, Cortez Hustle, also known as the one and only financial health mentor, everybody's favorite fatherpreneur, coming to you live and direct from the Extra Digit Movement Studios right here in St. Louis, Missouri, where you will find a group of the most committed, the most passionate and compassionate financial educators on the planet. If you are looking to add another stream of income to your household, if you are looking for a complete financial makeover, I need you to comment in the chat, Extra Digit Movement. If you're watching this online, if you're listening to the podcast, and text me your name and keyword Extra Digit Movement to 314-874-6887. And we've got a financial game plan for you like no other. I'm super excited. We're talking software money, man. How do you get your hands on some of it? What is this software industry doing, and how is it reshaping the economy and the world at the same time? Got a special guest, Akeel Jabber, on. He's going to talk about how to start, grow, and even sell and buy a software or tech company. But before I do that, I got a couple quick announcements for you. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I have a special cash flow credit that I'm offering for our financial education program. That means you can partner with me and get a complete financial makeover for just $129. And on top of that, not only will you get a financial makeover, we pay you really, really good to refer other people who are trying to get an instant pay raise on a job, lower their taxes, get their cash flow up, get their debts down, improve their credit score. When I say complete financial makeover, that's exactly what it is. So let us know if you want to partner with the Extra Digit Movement, or at least get some more information on how to do that. And I would love to get you some information in that regard. So we're not going to belabor the moment. I'm super excited to talk to this gentleman when he reached out and said, hey, here's what I do, and here's how I can share some very powerful information with your audience. I was like, man, yes, let's do it. So if you understand anything about where we are in today's society and in today's economy, then you know that it is all about technology. And my special guest, Akeel Jabber, is going to help us understand where we fit into this huge puzzle of technology and how we can transform our finances if we understand how to get in the game. So without further ado, Brother Akeel, how you doing this morning?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on today. Super excited.
Awesome. Well, brother, before we get into who you are, how you got started in this industry and your background and all that stuff, man, we like to start the show with a quote of the day. Now, you can chime in on my quote, or if you have your own favorite quote, please feel free to share that with us. But today's quote of the day right here on the Cortez Hustle Show says this, and it's fitting for this episode too. And I never, plan this stuff out, but it just works today. Fear of the future causes us to lean against and cling to the present, while faith in the future renders us perceptive to change, right? And I think when it comes to technology, I think that's where people are finding themselves, Akeel. So do you have, and that's from Eric Hoffer, do you have a favorite quote that you'd like to share with us, or do you want to chime in on that one?
Yeah, man, I like that one. That's a good one. I actually have one, and I probably think it overlaps with yours, but in a different way. It's what you can be, you must be. So I think that's it. What you can be, you must be. So I think it's the same thing where it's like, where do you want to be? Whatever you have the potential in you, whatever faith you have, whatever the belief is in you, you have to kind of strive to get to that person who you actually want to be. What's that life you want?
I love that. That is super dope. And I think when it comes to technology, we are allowing our fear of the future to cause us to hold on to what is present. And you got to embrace that unknown. You got to embrace that future. You got to embrace that the challenges that come with the change and the evolution of us as a species, as the economy. All of that stuff is going to continue to grow and change. As they say, the only constant is change. So that is quote of the day right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, brought to you by my sales confidence coach, Mr. Brian Keith McNeil. He does trainings every single Monday. If you're trying to figure out how to close more, how to sell more, how to become better at your craft and moving the needle and the bottom line in your business, I need you to go to howtogetaclientnobs.com. That's howtogetaclientnobs.com. So, Brother Akeel, tell everybody listening today, who the heck are you?
Sure, man. I'm happy to tell you. So I'll give you a kind of quick background of myself. I'm actually a petroleum engineer turned entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of people here, I actually worked in the white collar industry for several years, and I made that full-time leap to entrepreneurship, I think over 7 years ago, and that's how I support myself. But even while I was in university, I launched a business then. I launched my first business at that time. It was actually a recruitment service firm for hiring tech talent for startups all around the world. But my passion was always around how do I increase my cash returns from the money I was making in the first place to replace my income, right? Which is, I think, a lot of your audience, like they're working full time in a job and they want to increase their income and then finally make that leap to be, focus full time on their something else that they're more passionate about. So I actually started investing in the stock market. This was when I think, back I think I was 17 years old at the time. But I learned a lot of hard mistakes, right? You make a lot of money, the next day you're all excited, and then you lose all that money the next day, right? So that's after a couple of years, I quickly learned a couple of things. One was, when it comes to the public markets, you really don't have as much control over so many factors, right? It's already public. There's a lot of things that could happen when you're picking stocks. A business can be affected by news on the other side of the world. Turmoil happens. Your stock can drop 50% overnight, and there's not much you can do. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have no control of their business. There's so many different factors. The second thing is, you're competing with the guys on Wall Street, right? These guys have a lot more sophisticated tech, right? They have the technology to back them. They have the experience. They literally do this day in, day out. They've been doing this for years, and they're trying to pick better deals to invest in than everybody else. So you're coming in as a disadvantage if you're trying to do this on the side, as like, trying to pick stocks and doing this as a hobby and doing a couple hours a week, where these guys do it day in, day out, and you're competing with, it's like trying to play, pick up basketball against LeBron James, right? It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. I think that's kind of actually when I actually came across the book Cash Flow Quadrant. I think a lot of your audience may be familiar with it, by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
And I learned about, investing in cash generating assets, controlling your own income, controlling your time, and leveraging debt effectively to make more money on your cash. So I actually had, used some of the cash at the time, saved, invested in some real estate in Canada. Bought my first one. That went well. Made a couple $100 on it in terms of cash flow. Then the second one, but this was me. I think I was 25 years old at the time. I was like, man, this is just too slow for me, right? Like, I'm 25. I want results fast. Like, a couple $100 is nice, but I need to make enough. I need to leave my job. I need to get out of here. So it's cool. Real estate, I still think it's a good investment, right? If you guys are looking to make money on your money and leverage cash, I think it's still good. But I just look at it more of like a long-term game. Look at it like 20 years. That's when you're going to get the real kind of results of it. So then I invested in a physical business. I actually have a physical franchise gym in Canada. Still doing well, still have that, a partner running it. And that's where I learned about recurring revenue. What is recurring revenue? What is the power behind it? You have LTV, lifetime value. You learn about churn, turnover, and all that stuff around local marketing. But at that time, I felt there was still limitation of this model. When people are thinking about starting a local business, the problem is you're so physically dependent of one location, right? You're in one city, and it's super expensive to scale. Every time you hit your capacity, you want to move on to another one, you have to open another location. It's going to cost you, $500,000, $1 million every single time. But still good. I mean, I still look at it, like a 5-year return. And about that time, that's when I learned about digital and online businesses. And I actually bought my first online business at the time from a marketplace called Empire Flippers. I bought an affiliate content site at the time. I think it was for less than $50K. And I was hooked, man. That was kind of where I started, right? That's, got in online, learned about how making money online. I learned about, conversion rate optimization, SEO, hiring and manage remote teams, affiliate marketing, email marketing, all that good stuff. And that's around when I quit my job, traveled around a bit. And then I found this firm at the time. They're called Wired Investors. They're kind of doing the exact same thing I was doing, but they're doing it with a lot bigger. So they're, buying 7-figure acquisitions. They're getting money all around, pooling investor capital, and making these, $1 million acquisitions. After a bit of, doing different things like raising some money for them, I took on the role of being a CEO of a company at the time called $99 Social. And within 5 months of, making that acquisition, I was able to double that company. And then I moved into being kind of they gave me another company to manage. And then I moved into being the group CEO of all the Saas companies. So I was actually working with the CEOs of each of these companies, helping them, implement these growth strategies, putting in some systems in place, and then, helping them grow. And then 2 years ago is actually when I left that group, and I decided on focusing my own firm, which is launching Horizon Capital, and where we really focus only on B2B SaaS companies. That's our expertise. But funny enough, when I started Horizon, the goal is no longer just, focus on cash flow. Yes, we do provide, double, triple digit returns to investors, but the focus is really about empowering entrepreneurship through a different path, right? A lot of people don't think about it, but there's another way to building your kind of business. It's not, and you don't have to build your business. You can actually buy a business, and that's, entrepreneurship through acquisition. And, that's what kind of gives me a passion these days.
Man, I love that. So let's break down some terms so people can understand where we're going with this. You say SaaS company. So explain what a B2B SaaS company is. What does that mean?
So SaaS stands for SaaS, software as a service. So imagine you're providing a service. A lot of people here probably in the space maybe have a service, but maybe let's say you're an accountant and you're providing, financial statements, and you're looking at some documentation, and you're doing this some kind of process manually. Basically, what software does is takes that process that you're doing, you write a bunch of code behind it, and there's like, imagine an army or ninjas of code doing all the work behind for you 24/7. And so that's basically, if you break it down in a simple format, it's taking away the human factor of having to do the work, where the computer and the code is doing it for you.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people understand how integrated technology is into our lives. And can you help us understand that just from that basic level? I mean, technology and software is in everything, right? That group of ninjas is in everything, making everything that we do easier. I couldn't pick up this phone and call somebody without that group of ninjas inside creating all of these little mechanisms and processes to get that call to go through. Was that something that you studied in school? Was that something that you've always been excited about, or when did you really get excited about this technology and understanding where we're going with it in terms of future outlook?
So I never studied it in school. I mean, this is all things I've learned kind of through experience. And I, you know, but I was always excited about it, right? This was something I was excited, ever since high school. Learning about, all the beautiful things you're building. You're right. It's on your phone. We're working on it right now, right in front of each other. Using this software online. It's everywhere at your work, your job. It's a must these days. You can't go anywhere without having to understand how to use it. In terms of the why I love it, how I got more information, how to do it. I think it was just through experience, just from working there. What I realized is this is kind of where I just enjoy when working with so many different online businesses. Like I've worked on e-commerce, I mentioned, on content sites, service businesses. SaaS is just really a beautiful thing that I enjoy. This is where I found this is where my passion is, what I enjoy, where I feel I can make the biggest impact. And where I enjoy. So I think those are the two biggest factors that I look at when I really want to focus on, a business that I want to double down on and really focus a lot of my time is, hey, do I really enjoy this? Do I really love it day in, day out, everything around this kind of business model? And second is, can I make an impact? And when I realized this, when I was working as, kind of CEO and working with group CEOs and working with all these SaaS companies, and I was seeing the results of the work I was doing and implementing and seeing all these changes, that just gets me excited. And that gives me the motivation to wake up every day and just keep making those changes.
Gotcha. And let's talk real quick, because I think this is something that entrepreneurs struggle with overall, is moving from one field to the next, right? This is not a field of study, right? And I think that's one of my beefs with college and university is you come out of high school not knowing what the heck you want to do. So you dive into something that somebody tells you is going to make a ton of money. And if you're not careful, you get wrapped up in that for 40 years. But you at some point said, nah, let me go a different direction. Was that difficult on your family and your loved ones who saw you successful in corporate America, but then you're making this transition, this leap to go do this other thing? Was that a difficult transition for those who were looking from the outside in, like, man, what are you doing?
100%. Even my mom still asks me today, what do you even do? Like, she still doesn't understand what. But yeah, I mean, it's never easy. People always but at first they're gonna be like, question you, put a lot of doubt in you. There's a lot of fear, and I understand it, right? They're just kind of worried about you. At the end of the day, they care. They would rather you pick the safe route than taking that risk and losing what you have, right? When you're making six figures, it's hard to kind of take that step and walk away from it. But after they see you, what they really care about at the end of the day is seeing you happy, following your dreams, following your passion. And to be honest, I think you actually get more admiration, more respect after they see you're doing, whether you're doing well or not, you're following what you want to do, you're doing what you want, and you're happy. I think that's what matters at the end of the day.
Awesome. Well, we got a question from the audience early. Normally they don't chime in with the questions till a little bit later, but I think this is a good transition for us before we get into 1 minute motivation. It says, I would like to know how an entrepreneur can protect ourselves when taking our knowledge and placing it into software. Most of us will need to trust developers to create the SaaS products. Should we copyright the source code after it's developed and all of that kind of stuff? So basically, this is something that is huge, especially in my community, is we got an idea and we will not move towards developing that idea because we're thinking somebody's going to steal it or somebody is going to backdoor us. And really, we mess around and sit on an idea for 20 years and then somebody else does it. And it's like, so help us to understand when it comes to this technology, how we can protect ourselves, our investments, our intellectual capital and intellectual property when trying to develop a software or some of this IP that could basically we can patent and create generational wealth from.
All right, let me tell you guys something real quick. Ideas are cheap. They don't mean anything. They're not worth anything. They're worth $1. You guys can, even when it comes to code, look, even if you build, there's so many different ways you can architect and create code and build your product. At the end of the day, it's not the code really that's valuable. You have to understand the different technologies of how it's structured, and there's so much complexity behind it. It's when it goes to market, when you show traction, when you start making money, then I would start worrying about, what is the value of my company? It's like, wow, we actually have something here. Anything before that, it's not worth it. So, but if you are, working with the developers or you're working with an agency to build your product, yes, you want to protect yourself. And generally, you can just do that when you're having that contract or an agreement with them. Put in you have that kind of non-compete. They have that exclusivity. NDA with all those, the wording behind it to protect you that you guys actually own the code and they can't use it or replicate it or copy it. So just put some wording in there to protect yourself there. But I wouldn't worry about that too much other than that.
Yeah, I don't. As a creator, that is the last thing that I worry about. It's like, come on, man, this is a birth from my creative genius. Even if someone tried to do something similar, they're not going to do it the way I do it because the vision wasn't downloaded into their psyche like it was mine. So I think that's incredibly important to always remember. But yeah, you have your language and you have your contracts and all of that kind of stuff. And another thing we have to think about is most of the time, the people who are doing the developing, it's their job. They're just trying to get money. They're trying to pay bills. They're not thinking entrepreneurially about, oh, you know what? This can be a great business. They're like, oh, this will never work. I'm just going to write the code and I'm going to get it back to them. And that's usually the thought process. You rarely have someone who is the entrepreneur developing your stuff like, oh, this is a game changer. Let me steal it. Right. So real quick, now it is time. We do something on the show, Akeel, called 1 Minute Motivation. I believe so much in the power of personal growth, self-development, and feeding your brain the right stuff that every morning we do 1 minute motivation. I'll play a short motivational clip. I actually give me a couple takeaways. I'll give a couple takeaways. The audience usually comments a couple takeaways, those who are watching live. And that's kind of how we kind of started doing this every single morning. It's become one of the favorite segments of the show. So let's get into 1 minute motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, the Akeel Jabber version. Let's do it.
When I look at people, I always ask the question, I say, man, tell me what Nike stands for. They said, oh, Inc., that's easy, just do it. I said, tell me what Adidas stands for. Oh, Inc., that's easy, man, impossible is nothing. I said, now tell me what you stand for. When people look at you, do they think excuses? When people look at you, do they think victory? When people look at you, do they think that's a person that's going to give me everything they got, not on some days, but on every day, and it's not going to be predicated upon if I feel like it, because I think we all know if we only worked on the days when we felt like it, none of us would get much accomplished. I'm talking about the real level of commitment, not the commitment that falls in line if everything goes right. I'm speaking of the commitment that says, I am going to stay true to what I said I would do long after the mood that I've set it in has left.
See, most people, ladies and gentlemen, are stoppable. Most people, all you have to do is tell them no. All you have to do is make it inconvenient for them. All you have to do is make it difficult for them, and they'll stop. See, when you go to get your goal, don't think that all you have to do is think positive and everything's going to work out okie dokie for you. When you go to get your goal, you are sending a telegram to Murphy's Law to visit you personally.
You thought you was just going to have a dream and a goal, and you were just going to wake up and just walk into the sunset. You're like, dream, boom. It don't work like that. You have a dream, and then life pumps you. Life pumps you and say, do you really want this?
Ooh, love that, man. Love
it. Listen, man. The funny thing is, I love doing this because we all just listened to the same clip, but we all heard something very different. So, what did you hear?
So I think people say that they have a goal, and I think is what they think they want, or they say it internally of what they want. But I think it's easy to kind of fall behind, right? Because you just say like, this is what I want, and then you don't go after it. Because I think there's so many, like I said, I want to leave my job. So many people are pushing me, against me, adding the fear in me, pushing the fear in me, finding reasons for me not to do it. But what I learned recently, and what I found to be super helpful, that's even stronger than just the thought, or writing down a goal. Goals, writing it down is a lot more powerful. But actually stepping into the identity of who you want to be, just like Nike, just do it. That's their identity. Adidas has their identity. You have to walk into that person, who you want to be, and live that person. I am an entrepreneur. I'm not, I want to be an entrepreneur one day. I am an entrepreneur. What does an entrepreneur do? How does an entrepreneur act? Where do they go? Where do they spend their time? How are they spending their money? That is how you move forward to actually, doing what you want to do, and not just saying it and telling the world. You have to do it.
Man, I love it. Be, do, have. You got to become first.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you do the things that the type of people do, so that you can have the things that those people have. I love it. I love it. I love it. So what do you stand for, right? When people look at you, do they see you? Do they see excuses, or do they see victory? I think we're going to get into building companies and what you look for, and when you're investing in a good company, SOPs and all of that kind of stuff. But do you have an SOP for your life, right? What is your standing operating procedure that's going to get you to where you want to be in life? Or are you committed, right? And I like Les Brown's take on, when you decide to do something great, just like you are moving the universe to bring the resources to you to get it done, you're also moving the universe to bring you the tests to see if you really want it. And a lot of people, he said, are stoppable, right? Oh, make it a little inconvenience and they're going to stop. Oh, put a little stumbling block in their way and they're going to stop. We've got to figure out that, yes, if I decide to do something great, all the resources are coming, but so is all the drama. So is all the hardship. And it's not coming to stop you. It's coming to strengthen you, because the universe knows that if you say you really want this, this is, like you said, the person that you need to become. How we get you to become that is to test you along the way. So that is 1 minute motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, brought to you by Horizon Capital, of course. My man Akeel Jabber right here live and direct with us in the studio. And we're talking software as service companies, developing softwares, understanding how to leverage technology and get your piece of it to build your own empire. So you talked a little bit earlier about you started investing in the stock market early because you knew that you're trying to get some wins and you're trying to get to a certain place financially. And then ultimately, once you get financial freedom buys time freedom. Were you investing in tech stocks then, or was it just whatever's hot?
A little bit of tech, but what I say, when anything you're going to be investing in, invest in what you understand. And at the time, I was actually investing in a lot of oil and gas companies because I was a petroleum engineer. I understand, how they operated, what the internals were, what the numbers look like, what to look for. So I was actually investing mostly in those companies.
Invest in what you understand, right? That's huge. So now let's talk about some of the things that, when we're talking about developing these or looking at a software as a service, you said that not only could you develop your own software, but sometimes investing to buy a software that is already in existence, or a company that has already built a product. To me, it sounds difficult to buy a company or buy a piece of tech that you're going to own and then take it to the next level. Break down the process of that and what you guys look at over at Horizon Capital when you're looking at adding a piece of tech or a company to what it is you're doing.
Yeah, so it's always that kind of battle internally of, when you think about, okay, I've got this amount of capital, whether it's $10,000, $100,000, and I've got to put it to use. I can either build a company from scratch, or I can buy a company that's already in place. And think about, what's the failure rate of starting a company, right? If you don't know what you're doing, especially when it comes to tech, do you want to take that chance, 90% chance of, building a company, spending a year of your time, 2 years to build it up before you even get any revenue, right? The beautiful thing of buying is that person's already spent the 1 year, the 2 year building, the product, which is the hardest thing, getting revenue, getting clients, proving that there is demand, and now you get to come in at a later stage and overcome and step over all that kind of that process and come in and focus on year 2, year 3, year 4, and just focus on the growth and making some tweaks. So it depends who you are. Like, are you a builder, or are you a manager and operator? And I think that's just something internally people like would you enjoy designing and being the architect and building a house and designing every component of it, or do you want to just buy it in an existing company, make a couple existing piece of real estate, make a couple of changes, rent it out, and be the manager and operator? So that's how you have to look at it. In terms of what we look for, I mean, maybe these some terms might be a little complicated, but we like a little bit of consistency, a bit of history. So at least 3 years you've been in business. Our minimum threshold right now is about 500K in annual recurring revenue. That's our minimum, up to about 5 million. That's kind of our sweet spot. But there's a lot of smaller ones out there. Some people just starting off, you might want to start a little smaller. And then we look at things like churn. So churn is a super important factor in SaaS. If you're not familiar with it, is how much of your customers are actually sticking around and stick for the next month, right? So on a monthly basis, how many are coming in and how many are leaving? So that's the kind of wheel. If a lot of businesses or clients are leaving every single month, and you know that you don't have a sticky product, the value of your product isn't that valuable. So we look at numbers, for example, anything less than 5% on a monthly basis. Anything less than 5% is we're interested in. The second thing we look at is lifetime value. How valuable is one customer to you? So if they're paying, say, $100 a month for your product, and on average, let's say across 100 different users or clients, they're staying around for a year, then your lifetime value is $1,200, right? So we like something over 1,500 or so, especially in B2B. When you're working with business to business, at least 1,500 or plus is what we're looking at. What else are we looking at? So revenue, churn, LTV. We like where are they located? Who's the team? What's have they outsourced everything? Is a lot of the clients dependent on the owner? So that's something any business you're looking at, that SaaS or anything else, is how dependent is the business on the owner?
Yeah.
You want companies that have those SOPs in place, that have those processes, that actually rely less on the owner, so that if somebody's stepping in, you can quickly take over. They have the process, you know exactly what to do. And for example, the relationships, let's say you have a client, is not dependent on him, that if he leaves, and you take over, all of a sudden you're going to lose that client overnight. So you've got to be careful for that, is that there's not so many dependencies on the owner, so that you can take over and there's a smooth transition.
Yeah, I love that. We had Michelle Seiler Tucker on the show about a month ago, and she was talking about the importance of a few things that she looks at when she's doing her acquisitions, and talk about the important. You highlighted or mentioned that the owner, right? If the business is moving or staying afloat because of the owner solely, then that's not a true business. But the importance of having not only the SOPs, but having them properly documented, because that's a huge part of me buying your company. That means I can come in and bring my team in and just give them your SOPs and your processes and procedures if they're properly documented. So when building out a company, that's super important, right?
100%. Yeah, and I think so a couple of things. One is your procedures, your SOPs. The other is your financials, making sure you have that as clean as possible, up to date. All your numbers are categorized. And yeah, same thing. You have everything easy for people to come in. So I'm not worried if one person leaves, that it's so contingent that I lose my business, that it's dependent on any single person.
Yeah, and you talked about when we're looking at these softwares, I noticed about 4 or 5 years ago, and it probably started happening long before that, but this is just when I noticed that you used to have companies like Microsoft, and they would sell you the Office suite, and they would just sell it to you for a couple $100, right? But then they moved to a membership-based model, right? Is that kind of the shift that everyone has moved to for that long-term revenue? Because I remember I was like, man, when I bought a new computer or laptop, they said, hey man, extra $100, we'll put Word on there. And now I know that I can just go to the Microsoft site and I can just subscribe. I think I have Word and Suite and 6 terabytes of space for like $9 a month or something like that. right? So is that kind of the model that is leading the charge in the SaaS space right now?
That's exactly it, right? So the difference is they just put the data. So it used to be on like a CD-ROM, you had to put it in your computer. Then after you had to actually download like the super heavy thing and upload it onto your computer. And now it's just on the cloud, right? So the cloud is what really SaaS is all about, is where the technology and your hosting is streamlined, put onto the cloud, which is like an online kind of storage. And that's exactly what it is. And so what they realize is, would you rather get somebody paying you, $100 once, and it could be 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, you forget to renew it, or you're happy with the old version, or do you take $10 a month, and they're paying you on that recurring basis? So recurring revenue is what the beauty is in SaaS. Like that's literally, if there's one big thing about SaaS and what everybody looks at, is how much of your revenue is recurring. And if you can build that, it doesn't matter what kind of company you have. You can do this in service as well. You can do this in another business. Get that recurring revenue. That's a lot more valuable. And that's why everybody loves it.
Yeah. Membership based, man. That's where it's at. I tell all the entrepreneurs that I work with that find a way. I don't care if you create a monthly mastermind or you have whatever you have. Can you create a product that brings value to people's lives every single month, and they pay you recurring? Because that's something else that Michelle really broke down, is the power of your customer base. And I like to say it like this: when Facebook bought Instagram, you're not going to tell me that Facebook didn't have the developers that could have gone and built an Instagram in a weekend.
Exactly.
So what did they really buy? They bought their list. They bought the 100 million users that were on Instagram that weren't on Facebook. So talk about the importance of your customer relationships in SaaS, and how important it is to really have them locked in the proper contracts and agreements so that they're transferable if someone bought your business.
So what's really, really expensive these days? Customer attention and customer loyalty, right? If you can get those two, they're, they have your attention and then they're loyal to you. That's super valuable. Like that's probably the most hardest thing to get. And once you have it, that's super valuable for any company looking at it. And showing that growth of users, showing that retention of people actually using it, that's what a lot of investors are looking for. So sorry, what was the question there on top of that?
Yeah, but you're saying again, attention and loyalty, but also making sure that you have your contracts right with your customers, because you don't want them to not be under contract. I come by your business and they say, I don't agree. I'm not going to work with this company. I wanted to work with, the previous ownership and all that kind of stuff. So is that something that you guys look at too, to make sure that, hey, if we buy this company, we are buying the customer base and they're locked in as well?
We don't worry about contracts. We let the product sell itself. If they like the product, like I said, it's actually better if they're not dependent on the owner. So if they like the product of what you're offering, there is no reason. Yeah, maybe there's a very, very, very small amount of people who are going to leave because of change of ownership. Maybe they don't feel comfortable. But that's not we always buy the client list, we buy the team, everything comes in place, but the contracts isn't it. We don't want to force people to stay on something they don't like. Sometimes we have those annual contracts, but when it comes to renewal, then they can decide if they want to stick around. But on a monthly basis, with SaaS, they can cancel anytime if they don't like it, and all of a sudden they decide they want to move on. That's fine as well. But we'll obviously try to save them and give them keep them on as well. Yeah.
Got you. Love it. Let's transition a little bit, because you're also the reason you were able to take $99 Social to double its revenue in 5 months is because of some of the marketing genius that you bring to the table in this space. Let's talk about, if I already have a SaaS product, right? And I'm building, it's already built. I'm looking to grow my business to where someone like Horizon Capital would come in and buy it. What are some of the things that I could do to increase, from a marketing standpoint, my attention and loyalty and my retention and my customer base? What are some of those things that you recommend any B2B SaaS company do to kind of grow the business from a marketing standpoint?
So that's something actually we noticed recently. We're actually getting a lot of people come to us and say, look, I built this product. I've gotten a couple of users. I'm a product person. I like to build but I'm not a growth person. I don't really understand. So we actually started partnering with a couple of people. So if people are interested, we come in, we apply our playbook, our growth expertise, and then we actually help you. If we can accelerate it, then we can help you. Invest more capital into it, raise more capital, or acquire your company as well. So a little nice kind of partnership deal we have there. In terms of growth strategy, one channel that I really like is leveraging partnerships. And what I mean with that is the big blue whales who doing the amount of work that you do with one client is going to lead to 50 clients. And so, for example, $99 Social, we were selling B2B, yes, directly to small businesses, the hair salons, the dentists, the plumber who are coming in looking for social media services. But the real value, and what I find, if you're going to spend time on one person and building a relationship, were some of these agencies who already had 50 clients, the resellers. So they would come to us and say, look, I already got 50 clients here I'm working with every single day, and they all need your service. Let's make a deal here where we're going to bring all 50 of your clients on and in one day and work with us and building that partnership versus, having to spend, 50 separate people that you're working with. So your attention is the same. You're working with one person, or do you want to work across 50 different people? So I think in SaaS, building partnerships are huge. You can, one kind of solid partnership could essentially easily double or triple the value of your company just by putting that in place.
Yeah, I agree. My mentor is always talking strategic alignment, strategic partnerships, because you have, depending on what that product is, that partner might have downline resources or access to say, hey, listen, this software is great for my company, but because I serve all these other companies, it'd be great for them too. So I love that as a strategy. Ultimately, when it comes to, we talked about positioning your company for sale. We talked about having the SOPs and the procedures and all of that stuff well documented, your customers, the loyalty, that product. In the development phase of a SaaS product, is it difficult to source developers or development firms to kind of help you? So if I was brand new and I had this idea, I'm like, man, this is what I do and it's great. If I had an app for that, then it could help explode my business, right? How would someone go from that idea, these manual processes and procedures, and finding the right development team to kind of help get that in place? Is that something that you guys do, or do you wait till after it's already built and then you evaluate everything from that space?
So here's a mistake I've seen a lot, and I've actually worked with a startup in the past like this, where the founder outsourced everything, right? He was a great CEO, he was a great entrepreneur. He's had a lot of success in physical businesses and service businesses, but when he went to shift to SaaS, he actually failed this way because he didn't have a product partner. So if I'm going to make one recommendation, is do not outsource your entire project over to to India, to the Ukraine, to somewhere in Eastern Europe, until you have a CTO or a technical partner with you, or somebody who knows what they're doing when it comes to product, because they understand architect, quality of code, what kind of type of what kind of latest tech we should be using, which front end to software, what back end. There's all these different technicalities that I think somebody like us who probably don't understand. So focus on what you're good at. If it's product, that's sales, that's marketing, that's customer relationships, that's the vision. It doesn't mean you're good at code. So because what's going to happen is you're going to build all this, even if they build it for you, you don't even know if it's good or not because you don't understand what's happening behind the scenes.
Correct.
And then when you go to raise, right, you just see the front end of it. Oh, this looks nice. But and then another developer comes, they'll look at it. Let's say you hire in-house development team, and they're going to say, look, this is spaghetti code. This is crap. I can't work with this. And then you're going to be stuck with, I just spent all this money. I've got to rebuild it from scratch because there's no solid infrastructure in place. Second thing is, when you go to raise money, if you're actually trying to build a unicorn, you're going to raise VC capital. What's going to happen is a lot of investors are not going to be interested if you don't have a technical co-founder, because if you don't have the CTO, that means your code doesn't have a solid foundation and a leader to lead it. So I would say that's the first thing. They're not going to look at it. Usually, there's two people, two founders. When it comes to tech, you want to have sales, growth driven, and then product, and kind of tech person. So if you have those two combinations, that's where the sweet spot is, and you should be able to build a solid company.
Yeah, and when you say partnership, that means giving up ownership. People, a lot of times people don't want to partner because that. Well, if I need somebody to be as invested in this thing as I am from that perspective, then that's what you need to do. Figure out the ownership split and say, hey, man, let's go ahead and run. I have the ability to take this thing and sell this thing, but to get it developed, I don't have the technical acumen to say if this is good or not. So I love that approach. Speaking of raising capital, I hear that term a lot, right? So help us to understand the different phases of a capital raise and kind of how do you prepare yourself? How do you pitch, venture capitalists and things of that nature? Because a lot of us are just kind of not understanding that there's a whole world out there of money that's looking for the next big thing, right? So how do you go about the process of raising capital? Say my product is good. I've taken it to the market. People are loving it, but now I want to make it an international phenomenon, and I know I need money to do that. So where does one start down that path?
So I'll break it down into two areas, and maybe easier for your people listening in to relate with. So the early stages, when before you even have a product, and you've built anything, the main thing what you're selling, and this all comes down in your pitch deck. So just like when you're applying for a job, you have that CV, that resume, and that's what people are judging you on, are going to make a decision on looking at it. Your pitch deck is what your investors are looking at. So we have a resource on our website, horizoncapital.com/pitch deck. You can check that out on how to create a solid pitch deck. But that is what people are going to be looking at when they decide to invest in you or not. At the early stages, before you have your product, what they're looking at is you as the team. Are you the right person? Are you the best person who can execute and actually drive this vision? Do you have the experience in this industry, in this field, that actually know what you're talking about? Hernando, all about money, right? That's your thing, day in, day out. You talk about hustling, building my life, how I want, monetizing your life. So you build a product based on that, because that's your background, that's your expertise, and that's why I'm going to trust you and I'm going to invest in you, because you know what you're talking about. If you're coming and saying, hey, I'm going to invest in this car business, like, what do you know about cars? How are you the right person? That's like the only best person that I should invest in, who knows what they're talking about, right? Unless you have a track record or something behind you of understanding what you do, that's what you're going to be selling. And that's what the investor is looking at, is like, you're the right person investing, you and your story. Second stage, that's called kind of a pre-seed angel investment. There's a lot of it out there, and that's where you're getting maybe $100K, $200K, maybe even $500,000 check to go out and build your product. Now you're like, I'm the right person. I got this money. I'm going to go build this product and take it out to market and see if there's demand for it, at the stage you mentioned. Once that happens, the next stage you want to get that is probably like the seed or Series A stage of investing. And that's where it's like, look, I've got this product. I've shown a little bit traction. Here are my users. This is the feedback I've gotten. This is the money I've made so far. This is the growth we're getting. But now I've got all these other things that people are asking me for. They want me to develop these features. They want me to build. This is our product roadmap, what we need to build. And this is where we're going to invest to get further growth. And you got to have that whole story and understanding of what's going on and be able to present that on your pitch deck. And that's what, at that point, the investor's going to say, okay, here's the money. Here's another $1 million. Go and hire 5 engineers to build out this product roadmap. You're going to go hire all these marketers to build, focus on these 2-3 channels that we saw worked. Now we really need to push the needle and try to fine tune it to get, product market fit.
Man, I love that. And so the first phase is, it's me, it's my idea. I know my stuff because I've been living this. I know what the market needs. I've been doing it on a small scale, maybe a manual scale. I found out how we can automate this through technology. Yes, this is me and this is my tech partner, and we can do this thing. We just can't afford to do this thing, right? So you get the seed money to kind of, I love it. But then once it's introduced to the marketplace, it's like, listen, y'all, this thing is going to blow up. And here's where we're going with it. And you guys can help us get that done for a small ownership stake, and we can be off to the races, or we're going next door. and we're gonna see if they're going to jump in. So,
Exactly.
all right, well, man, that is super dope, super dope. So, Akeel, we do something. Are you a hip hop fan at all?
Yeah, I like hip hop, man. Yeah.
All right, well, listen.
I
We
like
do
Drake. I'm from
something.
Canada. Yeah.
Okay. We do something on the Cortez Hustle Show called freestyle, brother. Now, it's not about you rapping. I'm not gonna turn on a beat and make you drop some bars, but we know you got
Right.
bars. Well, freestyle is just about you taking a moment to, as I'm building this media empire that will one day rival Ted Turner and Disney. I don't always ask the right questions, and the conversations sometimes don't always evolve. But this is where you freestyle. Tell us anything that maybe we missed or anything that maybe needs to be reiterated in 90 seconds or so. So we got freestyle right here, the Akeel Jabber version right here on the Cortez Hustle Show. Drop that freestyle, bro.
Sure, man. Remember what I said at the beginning, my quote, what you can be, you must be. Being an entrepreneur, I absolutely love it. I couldn't have it any other way, but it's not as easy and glamorous as people highlight to be these days. It's a lot of work, but I actually love the process. If you don't love the process of building and operating a company, making so many small decisions every day in and out, being so different, managing different personalities, ups and downs, you've got to be able to put in the hustle, enjoy the day to day. And one thing I love is, and realized recently, I used to always think in just 6 months, 1 year increments of my goal. How's this going to benefit me in the short term? But when I started thinking about making decisions that would be 20-year decisions, that's really helped me make better decisions, sound decisions on my investments. And that gave me the drive on where I want to spend my time with and who I want to spend it with. And remember, nothing is forever. You can always change, and no one is forcing you to do something. If you're not enjoying it, if you are, make that change today, and put that joy in your life again.
Love it. That is freestyle right here on the Cortez Hustle Show. Akeel Jabber dropping bars on you guys, ladies and gentlemen. You've been listening to and learning from the investment director of Horizon Capital, man. He buys and fixes and flips and sells and works with SaaS companies to really get the value that they deserve. Talk real quick about the actual sale process of the company, right? It's like, okay, we have got to a place where we've taken this thing as far as we can. And I love what your perspective is. Can I make an impact, right? And if I'm building this company, even though this is my baby, I'm saying I've taken it as far as I can take it. And I know in the right hands, it can create even more impact. What does the actual sale of a company look like? If we agreed and you said, yes, you're going to buy this, what does that process actually look like?
So from the buyer's perspective, just stepping in your shoes, I mean, always ask yourself, why do I really want to sell my company? Do I really want to sell it, or is it just something that can be resolved by hiring or outsourcing some parts that are bothering me? Because typically we see people get the stage of selling their companies. They've been working on this company for maybe 5 years, 7 years, and they just get burnt out, right? Like they'd be like, I've been doing this day in, day out. I'm just not enjoying the process anymore. Remember, I said this, like, you've got to love the process at the point where you're like, I'm not enjoying this anymore. You want to move on? There's nothing wrong with that. Move on and do something that gives you that fire. And that's where we come in and add that breath of fire in and keep pushing it forward. The other reason is probably like, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I built a couple of things. I want to focus on this other project. I want to sell this one. That's another area. And then the third one is just like, I'm a product person. I love building. I like taking it to a certain part and building something nice, but I don't want to focus on marketing, operations, and being a leader and CEO and all that good stuff. So that's fine. We can come in as a partner. You can focus on product, and we'll take over on that side. From our process, pretty simple. We'll look at your financials. What does your numbers look like? All those metrics that we talked about. What's the team in place? What are the processes you have? Do our own due diligence. If we like what we see, we put an offer out. It's a big step, right? As a seller, like this is your baby. You're selling it off. You're trusting somebody to be able to take care of it for you. And we understand that. We respect that. We want to, just ask the right questions. Make sure we'll look at everything. Like at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is verify what you're telling us, right? You say, okay, this is my company. This is how well it's doing. Everybody's saying how good it is. That's fine. Let's just dig in. Once we sign an LOI, from there, generally between 30 to 60 days, we're doing our due diligence, going behind the scenes, verifying all the numbers, verifying all the data, the clients, talking to customers, talking to your team, making sure everything is in place. if we like what we see and we find all the risks. So the thing about investing, a lot of people maybe overlook is they only focus on opportunity and growth, and all the exciting part, but they ignore the risk part, right? And that's the part where investing is all about, is focusing on the risks, because this is nice to have and you can do it all you want, and that's for you to gain. But look at the risk. What are all the risks in this company? And then how can we mitigate it? What is the plan around it? Can we mitigate it, or is this risk just too big? And bring up all those red flags, talk about it, bring it to the founder, and maybe there's a way to put that into the agreement that you can work on as afterwards when you acquire it. So 30, 60 days of due diligence. Things check out, then we make that transfer of capital, cash over, transfer over the assets to us, the IP, the website, the domain, all the customer list, the team, and we start integrating internally and start taking over on our side.
Gotcha. I love it. I was actually a part of a company that got acquired by a giant in the information space, and it was like a $1.3 billion acquisition. And this is a family business that they built, to that place. And I'm like, man, to be able to build something that you can then turn around and sell for $1 billion. I'm looking at it from the standpoint of that's amazing. But then B, I'm looking at it from the buyer's perspective, and they're saying, if I'm going to pay you $1 billion, there's got to be at least 10x worth of value that I'm going to be able to add to my company with this acquisition. So it is super dope, man. So, man, I thank you so much for hopping on this morning and sharing your wisdom with us. Be it a SaaS company or not, you need to find recurring revenue in your business, ladies and gentlemen. Develop something, a product, a process, or something that people will pay you for every single month, because that's the name of the game. Increasing your cash flow that gives you money to continue to operate, money to invest, all sorts of other things. So, final word, Akeel, before we get out of here.
No, thanks. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate you, man. This has been good. There's a lot of good opportunities out there in the SaaS industry. If you're at the early stages, especially if you're coming out of school, I would say even join a startup before building your own. I think find a fast growing startup somewhere where you can get your hands dirty, where you can learn, and secondly, find a leader you admire and you connect with, and they provide you the resources to grow, because you've all found people who can mentor you, who can give you that opportunity and push you to learn different things. And then once you kind of been there for a couple of years and you've learned the ins and outs of marketing or sales or this product, learn how it works and seeing how the company grows and operates over growth, then you can go out and build your own product is what I would suggest.
Man, I love that. Brings us back to Robert Kiyosaki. Rich people don't work for money. Yeah, you're going to get a paycheck for working at that startup, but what you're really working for is the knowledge of how to operate a startup so that you can start your own thing. So I appreciate you so much for coming through, man. I've been with this information, and I can't wait to start implementing some of these things. I know I got to get my SOPs in order. I got to get my procedures documented, right? And I got to remove myself further away from the integral parts of my business. And I know that's something that has to be done. So love it, man. You've been listening to and learning from Akeel Jabber from Horizon Capital. Until we talk to you guys next time, we want you to get your money up, because you absolutely can do it. Importantly, you deserve to do it, each and every single one of you. Now hustle up. But you've got to overcome fear if you're going to win.
You're tuned into the Cortez Hustle Show. Please like and subscribe.